So this is Steve, and I'm here with Stacey O'Day, who is the Allen County Assessor. She is running for re-election. This will be your second term?
Second term.
Mm-hmm. And is there a statute of
No, the Allen County
limitations?
Assessors is not limited.
Oh, okay, great. And you're running on the Republican ticket?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, Stacey?
I'm 45 years old. I've been in the County Assessor's office for at least 20 years. I started out as a residential deputy and worked my way through. Back in 2006, I actually decided to run for office, but I actually left for a year because my boss at that time was Pat Love, who was a Democrat, and I was a Republican, so I was going to run. I was actually her chief deputy. She kept me on when she was elected, and I worked under her for 4 years. I decided I wanted to run, so I left for a year, which is kind of interesting. I kind of did consulting for myself, doing the same types of things. I did a lot of computer work in the office prior to. I did a lot of reporting and statistics, so I took those skills and developed a consulting company and did a lot of database searching and land values, if you will, for other surrounding small counties, and kept myself busy for that year. It was a great learning experience. I really learned to appreciate how advanced in some areas that Allen County actually is compared to some of the smaller rural communities. And it was nice to be on the outside kind of looking in, and I kind of came back with a whole new vision and a different perspective of how things needed to be done. But again, appreciation of the things that we had accomplished as well in the years I had been there.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've heard mentioned by quite a few different elected officials and those running for office, they talk about the diversity in Allen County. Mm-hmm. You go from the density of downtown and the surrounding neighborhoods, and you go out, you drive
Absolutely.
10 miles out of town and you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we have 155,000 parcels, give or take, in Allen County. It's probably a little bit larger than that now. We have a highly populated downtown area. We've got a very large ag community, over 10,000 ag parcels. We have over 10,000 commercial industrial properties, and the remainder being residential. So we're extremely diverse. Many counties around us are, strictly ag, and they don't have a lot of the diversity that we do have.
Mm-hmm. And that brings some challenges for an assessor as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we actually get a lot of phone calls from some of the surrounding smaller townships or counties because we're kind of a leader in a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. Just recently, actually, with the consolidation of township government, that was a big change here. And it was a bigger change for Allen County than it was, I think, for a lot of other smaller areas, because we had full-time township assessors. That were very good township assessors, but now they're all under the umbrella. The only surviving referendum vote was Wayne Township, which is your downtown area. But we took advantage of that, and I think the consolidation process was hard, but I think it was a good move. I think we've done a lot with that circumstance. I worked really hard with the township assessors. We had a really good working relationship, and I think that really helped us get from there to today. Most of them are still all working in the office, basically as team leaders. And this is a job that you don't learn from a book. You learn it from doing it. And many of the staff members have dedicated their life to doing assessing. And they had a lot to give back, a lot to offer. What we did, which I think is very unique, is I actually took the opportunity to do what I wanted to do in that office. And what we did is developed teams. Each township had, for example, a residential deputy, one or two. They had a personal property deputy, had a commercial deputy, a chief deputy, and a township assessor. That's a lot of staff for a small individual area. But what we did was took that knowledge and we put them into teams. And what I have now is a commercial industrial team that does nothing but commercial industrial. And those were my top 6 people that really got the concept of market value, income analysis, and put them into a team. And that's all they do. So they're becoming very good at doing that one thing. Mm. And now that Indiana is a market-based system, we can value properties 3 ways. We can do income analysis, sales, and cost. Those are your 3 approaches to value. we're trying to get the word out and educate people that if you're an income-based property, rentals, commercial or residential, we can base that property value off of income. If you supply us, like for example, 3 years worth of income data, so we can see a stream happening, a trend happening for that particular type of business, and we can value that property by income. And depending on what type of property class it is, generally folks would benefit from that if they're willing to give us that information.
And it seems like I remember seeing on your website that the forms are there for people to be able to download to supply that.
Yes, there's actually like some samples of what information we need, and examples of what you need to bring us in. Schedulees sometimes for rental property, so we can see what the income is, or how often during that 12-month period is that property rented on average. We also have in Allen County a residential team, but they're divided up into several different geographical areas, so that those people are really intimate with that geographical setting, kind of like a realtor would know an area of the market. These people know those areas like the back of their hand. They do building permits in that area. They look at the sales in that area. They put new construction on. They put the information on the computer, and even follow up to the end. If there's an appeals situation, they would actually do the appeals process in that particular geographical area. So that's we have the commercial industrial team, the residential team, and we also developed a personal property team, which a lot of people don't know we do personal property as well. We had, prior to, when we had 20 townships, we had the 7 township offices had a personal property deputy, and all the township trustee assessors also did personal property for like the ag communities, the farmers. They have to do personal property returns. We were able to save the county during this consolidation process over $100,000 by just absorbing the work of the township trustee assessors, be it in the real estate section and in the personal property section. Our current staff absorbed that work, so the taxpayer saw a savings in every year's budget in building of $100,000 just to start with. So I think the consolidation process is great. I think the biggest thing I think we can see from that is we have one directive now. The big thing we're trying to accomplish is uniformity throughout Allen County, and by having these teams, they have one director. You know, everybody's looking off the same page, if you will, on how things need to be done. And the commercial team will, for example, if you have a mini warehouse in this township and a mini warehouse in Aboit and one in Wayne, sometimes people could view things differently. But by having a team aspect, it's all done uniformly throughout Allen County, so nobody's being treated differently in one township than they would have been in another. And you know, that didn't per se happen, but the concept of making sure that it's uniform is great, and it's working really well. We've actually had a lot of comments from commercial realtors and appraisers throughout the local area around Allen County that say that our commercial industrial team is phenomenal. I mean, they're just far and above market modeling and income analysis than a lot of other counties are.
Okay. So you've touched on some of the duties that you have. In a nutshell, what is the assessor?
What is the assessor? We are actually determining the assessed value of each property in Allen County so that we can determine the taxes due on those properties. We have to determine what the cost is, what's the value of your home. Indiana's been through many, many changes over the last several years. When I started, everything was a strict cost approach. Basically, it's the sticks and stones. How much does it cost to reproduce this home minus depreciation? And it was a book. You looked up on a grid and said your house is brick, it's this many square foot, that's the value it is. That was the end of the story. Since then, we've moved to a market value in use, and that was determined by the town of St. John's lawsuit. I don't know if you've heard about that or not. Back in 1998, I believe it was, where Judge Fisher says that approach was unconstitutional. We had to redo everything that we had been doing. So what we did is we went to market-based system. And basically what we did is we took the cost approach, which is still the bottom line, still the starting point of what we do. If you look at our property record cards, everything has a square foot price on it. But what we do differently now is to compare that to the market annually. which is what you hear annual trending. Okay, that's very new as well. What we do now is we take a neighborhood. It's not per se maybe a subdivision. It could be two that are very similar, and we call it a neighborhood. We have about 3,000 in Allen County. We'll take that cost approach to that median assessed value of what all those homes are in there, and then we'll take the median sale price from the sales disclosures that people have to turn in when they sell their property. So then you have the median assessed value based off of cost and the median sale price in that neighborhood. So what's happening there? And when you compare those two, if the cost approach is below what the homes are actually selling for, we'll divide those two and come up with a trending factor. So it may be 1.25, which means it's increased 25%. And a lot of times you're going to see that factor over 1, because the last time we had a reassessment or the cost tables were developed was back in 1999. So you can imagine what the market has done since 1999.
Sure.
A lot of the factors are a little bit above 1, or at least they were until we had, till the market crashed in 2008. And now we're actually starting to see a little bit of that decline coming into the assessments. It's starting to hit the assessed values. One thing I'd like to point out to the taxpayers is mass appraisal is a little bit confusing, and it's very complicated. A lot of people don't understand why the assessed value that they receive in their tax bill is not the value that they think their house could be sold for today. In mass appraisal techniques, the Indiana code says I have to use sales from 2 years prior to the assessment date to set that market trend. Okay, so for 2010 pay 11, I had to use 2008 and 2009 sales to compile that. Well, I have a mixed bag going on there, because 2008 for the most part was pretty solid until October, when everything kind of tanked.
Sure.
So when you're looking at your assessments from this year and the trending factors that's applied, it's 2009 sales and a little bit of 2008. You'll start to see that decline. So I predict next year even you're going to see those assessed values drop even more, because the data pool that we're using is going to start catching up to the market. And that's very, very confusing to taxpayers, because they don't understand that it's not real, it's not today.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
Because they're not seeing that decline hit quite yet.